I mean, I think it all matters. I think part of what we do as artists is we're framing context all the time. And I think context is related to our histories, right? Like with Indigenous theater or the history of Canadian theater in the context of the British and the Americans and the creation of Canada and the history of colonization and the suppression of stories and the elevation of other stories over certain stories and all of that. I think it's all a part of what we do as artists. I think it's like intrinsic to what I do as an artistic director of Indigenous theater in a country called Canada.
And how do you not get lost in that landscape? It's totally complex.
Absolutely, but it's like that's what artists do best, is they get lost in the landscape and find things that are interesting and focus in on them. And
can you give me an example?
All kinds of examples. I think if from my own, just selfishly from my own work, all of my plays deal with historical context. All of my plays deal with the legacies and where we are now from those legacies of colonization or all of the things that we know and have experienced in this society and in the creation of Canada on top of Indigenous societies. And that is interesting, right? That's interesting. That's an interesting point of friction to make art from. And so I can use the example Little Red Warrior and His Lawyer, which was my season closer last year. It was also one of the first plays I ever wrote. It's a theater school project that I started writing over 20 years ago.
It was Studio 58 you went to?
Studio 58 at Langara College in Vancouver. And so out of that program, I wrote 3 plays. One of them became Where the Blood Mixes. The other one is Little Red Warrior and His Lawyer. But the first play that I wrote has never been produced and is only really a second draft called Three Lights in the Fire. John Lazarus, I know you know John Lazarus, he keeps saying, oh, that play you wrote, that first play, you need to go back to that. It's like, I haven't touched it in over 20 years. But anyway, so all of those plays wrestle with historical legacy and where that leaves us today. Even though like Little Red Warrior and His Lawyer is a satire about land claims. And so it deals with our history and it makes fun of our history and it pokes fun of our present day reality based off of those historical contexts.